All right, let's talk plant nutrition. In this explainer, we're basically going to crack the code of what makes plants tick. We'll get into the essential diet that powers everything from your garden to massive farm fields, and you'll learn how to turn those weird-looking leaves into clear signals for what to do next. You've totally been there, right? You're looking at a plant, maybe in your field or your backyard, and something's just off. The leaves are yellowing, the growth seems kind of stunted. Well, guess what? That's not random. The plant is actually talking to you. It's sending out signals. Our job, and what we're going to learn today, is how to become plant detectives, how to read those clues and figure out exactly what's wrong. Think of this explainer as your official detective kit. So here's the game plan. First, we'll look at a plant's secret diet. Then we'll check out the essential nutrient menu. We'll break down the difference between macronutrients and micronutrients. After that comes the real secret weapon, what I call the mobility clue. And finally, we'll put the big four, that's N, P, K, and S, under the spotlight. Let's get into it. Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, a plant's secret diet. We all hear about photosynthesis, and it's super important, for sure, but that's only half the story. It's where the energy comes from, but the building blocks for actual growth, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, we all got the lesson in school, right? Photosynthesis, sun, water, CO2, boom, you get sugars for energy. But here's the thing. That's like saying a human can live on nothing but candy bars. Sure, you've got energy, but you're not building anything. To actually build leaves, stems, roots, to grow strong, plants have to pull key ingredients, essential minerals, out of the soil. They're basically the vitamins and minerals that go along with that sugary diet they make for themselves.
All right, so what exactly are these essential ingredients? Let's get into Section 2, the essential nutrient menu. This is where our investigation really begins, with the official list of elements that are totally non-negotiable for a plant to live. And here it is, the whole shebang, the 17 essential elements for plant life. Now, the rule for making this list is super simple. If a plant can't go from seed to seed, complete its entire life cycle without an element, then it's essential. Simple as that. We start with the big three they get from air and water: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The others all come from the soil, and we break those down into two main groups: macronutrients, which they need a lot of, and micronutrients, which they only need in tiny, tiny amounts. This is the absolute fundamental menu.
Okay, but wait, there's more. Beyond those 17 essentials, we've got these 4 what we call beneficial elements. Now, these guys aren't essential for every plant to survive, but for certain crops, man, they are a huge advantage. Take silicon, for example. For plants like rice or sugarcane, it's like body armor. It strengthens their cell walls, making them tougher against diseases. Or cobalt. It's absolutely critical for those little bacteria on soybean roots that pull nitrogen out of the air. So, not essential, but definitely beneficial.
All right, we've got our list, so let's jump into Section 3, macronutrients versus micronutrients. The first and easiest way to start profiling these guys is just by looking at how much of each one a plant actually needs. I love this analogy because it just makes sense. Think of macronutrients as the main courses: the protein, the carbs. The plant needs a ton of this stuff. We're talking nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Then you have the micronutrients. These are like the vitamins. You don't need a lot, but you absolutely have to have them. We're talking iron, zinc, things like that. And let me tell you, don't let that micro name fool you. An iron deficiency can wreck a crop just as badly as not having enough nitrogen. Okay, Section 4. Now we're getting to what I think is the single most important, most powerful tool in our plant detective kit. This is a total game changer, and it all boils down to one simple question. Once a nutrient is inside the plant, can the plant move it around? And that's the whole idea behind nutrient mobility. See, when a plant starts running low on something, it has this amazing survival strategy. If a nutrient is mobile, the plant can actually pull it out of the older leaves, the ones at the bottom that have done their job, and send it up to the new, young growth at the top, where all the action is. It's basically recycling its own resources to survive. And this is the golden rule right here. If a plant is short on a mobile nutrient, like nitrogen, it will rob the old, lower leaves to feed the new growth. So where do the symptoms show up? On the older leaves at the bottom. But if the nutrient is immobile, like calcium or sulfur, it gets locked into place in those older tissues. The plant can't move it. So the new, young leaves at the top are the ones that suffer. It's that simple. Mobile deficiency is at the bottom, immobile is at the top.
This maize plant shows it perfectly. It's just a brilliant illustration. So let's say you're walking through a cornfield. If you see that classic yellow V starting at the tip of the lower, older leaves, you can bet your bottom dollar that's a nitrogen deficiency. Why? Because nitrogen is mobile and the plant is pulling it from the bottom to send to the top. But if you see the newest leaves, the ones coming right out of the whorl at the top, looking pale and yellow while the bottom leaves look great, your prime suspect is an immobile nutrient, like sulfur or iron. See? This one single clue tells you exactly where on the plant to look.
Okay, so now that we have this amazing diagnostic framework, let's put it to work. It's time for Section 5, where we open up the case files on 4 of the most important macronutrients out there: N, P, K, and S.
First up, case file nitrogen. N is the undisputed king of growth. I mean, this stuff is the building block for literally everything: proteins, DNA, and of course, chlorophyll, the stuff that makes plants green. Plants suck it up out of the soil mostly as nitrate or ammonium. And as we just learned, it is super mobile. And that's exactly why that classic symptom, that general yellowing, which we call chlorosis, always starts on the older leaves at the bottom.
Next on the list, phosphorus, or P. If N is all about leafy growth, P is all about energy and getting things started. It's a key part of ATP, which is basically the battery pack of the plant cell. That's why it's so important for getting good root growth going right at the start and for finishing strong with seed production. Phosphorus is also mobile, but its deficiency looks totally different. You'll see stunted growth for sure, but also look for a weird dark green or even purplish color on the leaves.
All right, up next, potassium. K is the great regulator. It's not really a building block like N or P. Instead, think of it as the plant's utility manager. It activates enzymes, it controls how water moves through the plant, it boosts disease resistance, it's just involved in everything. And since it's mobile, its deficiency symptom is super distinctive. You'll see yellowing along the edges and the tips of the older leaves. It almost looks like the edges of the leaf got burned or scorched.
And finally, let's crack the case on sulfur. S is a really close partner with nitrogen. It's a key part of some amino acids, so you need it to build proteins. Plants take it up as sulfate. Now, here's the twist with sulfur. Its mobility is kind of tricky. A lot of the time, it acts like an immobile nutrient, and that is a huge clue for us detectives. Why? Because a sulfur deficiency, a general yellowing, can look almost identical to a nitrogen deficiency. The key difference is where you see it. With sulfur, that yellowing often shows up on the younger upper leaves first.
And this leads to one last really critical point. A plant's diet isn't static. It changes, big time, as the plant gets older. This quote here says it all. Nitrogen content is highest in young plants and decreases as plants mature. Think about a young winter wheat plant. It is hungry for nitrogen to build up all that leafy growth. But once it starts to mature and fill out the grain, its demand for nutrients like phosphorus and potassium just skyrockets. So being a good grower isn't just about giving plants food, it's about giving them the right food at the right time.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that your plants are talking to you all the time. They're sending signals. And now by understanding what each nutrient does, and especially by using that key diagnostic clue, mobility, you have the tools to decode their language. So the next time you're out there walking through your crop, don't just look, observe. Ask yourself, what is this plant trying to tell me right now?